Hello, people. This is Charlotte, and we are chatting in cars. This is a podcast where I talk about random stuff pulled out of the bag that I thought of. If you have any suggestions, definitely yes, leave them in the comments. My goodness, I'm currently driving back from work, fully loaded with flu. Trying to get onto my next errand. Yeah. I don't know if you listened to the other podcasts. They're pretty mundane. Anyway, here we go. The topic for the current podcast, and I have to say, yes, there is a trigger warning. Yes, I swear. Yes, I talk about all kinds of things that are sensitive and some people might find triggering. This is the way I talk. It's real. These are real issues. People face these issues. If you can't handle them, don't be alive. I don't know. Don't deal with reality. And unfortunately, yes, this is things we talk about. This is things that are happening. Alright, so taking things for granted is my topic on the way home. I don't know how much time I've got to chat about this. It's probably about 35 minutes or so. Yes, taking things for granted. No, don't take things for granted, obviously. I've had many experiences where you shouldn't. You should be always grateful for what you get. And it's never, you never get a chance of doing some things again, sometimes. As far as relationships goes, you never can touch the same waters twice. As far as I'm concerned. Everything changes. You don't really get a choice. I've known from my background in poverty that I shouldn't take things for granted because the highs and lows associated with poverty are just phenomenal. You could be absolutely winging it one day and it's dumped the next. It's insane. For example, dealing with my work at the moment, I know there are when I was before the pandemic, there was lots of days where I just wasn't working, so I had to make do with what money I did have. But now the pandemic is happening, I seem to be making a shitload more money. Weirdly, because all the teachers who have full-time pay also get sick days, so they get to have time off. So even though if I am working and sick, I still have to go in. But I'm picking up more work this way, so swings and roundabouts. It's not always a bad thing. Taking things for granted. Taking things for granted, you generally think about, relationships. I have been taken for granted myself quite a few times. I don't know if I've taken anyone for granted. I tend to be incredibly self-reliant because I've just not had anyone to rely on. So it's hard to take someone for granted when you have, you can't get anything out of them. Sorry. It sounds very morbid, doesn't it? Oh my gosh. Okay. But I had an ex-husband who definitely took me for granted. I was doing all kinds of things. I was paying the bills, bringing in the money, being the wife, being his psych. I was doing his taxes, shopping, cooking, cleaning, everything. I was doing the absolute everything. And funny enough, when we a year after our 6-year anniversary, he gave me obviously the ultimatum. I don't know if you listened to the other podcast. Now I'm recycling a load of crap, but he gave me the ultimatum that I had to have an open relationship with him, open marriage with him, otherwise he'd leave me. That has got to be the epitome of taking someone for granted. Honestly, if I'd have stayed, can you consider the insult that would have been to stay? It's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Why do you think I am so, worthless that I wouldn't have the self-esteem to say fuck you, basically? It's insane. That guy was so far represented us. In terms of, so of course I left. He definitely took me for granted. I think honestly in his arrogance and his self-conceit, he thought I would stay. But bear in mind, he had spent like the last 16 years trying to, customize me and tear my self-esteem down. So to think that I had no other choice but no other alternative, So of course I would stay and take the abuse further. I didn't, and I think it shocked him, quite frankly, because he was still like, can we still be friends afterwards? I'm like, fuck no, bitch. So I scooted out of there with a shirt on my back. And I didn't go back. Honestly, I didn't look back. I couldn't believe it. After 16 years of being with that guy, that he decided to just try that shit. That was the ultimate deal breaker, and of course he knew that. At work, they are tending to take us for granted, obviously. The next area where we get taken for granted mostly. I'm finding it funny now that they're having trouble finding teaching staff because, you know, everybody retired with the pandemic, or they just found different jobs, or, you know. So it's hard finding, and I'm a relief teacher, it's hard finding relief staff right now, which they're just finding out. Last couple of years it's been, like, before the pandemic hit, it was pretty easy to find relief staff. But, you know, and they did take us for granted. They treated us like shit, to be honest. They overloaded us. We were given way more hassle than we deserved. They had no problem fucking with our pay, stuff like that. We were there to be installed, basically, and then uninstalled. And of course, we would turn up because we need the pay. And at the time, it was alright, but you don't take that shit for granted, really, because when it comes, shit hit the fan, like, with the pandemic hitting, you know, you're going to want your backup, and your backup will turn around. I mean, it's just like the Peasants' Revolt, really. You know, like, all these people dying. I think there's a Peasant Revolt. I'm going to have to Google that again. All these people dying, and the work is in plenty, and so they charge a higher fee for getting the work done. Oh wait, I'm thinking of something else, I think. Anyway, I'm going to have to Google that. When the plague hit in Europe, that might be what I think about. When the plague hit in Europe, and everybody started dying, they couldn't find the workers to run. Oh my god, it's happening again, isn't it? And they couldn't find the workers to run the farms and things like that. The peasants, who I'm sure started revolt, started claiming higher demands for wages and better conditions and things like that. And so they couldn't find the workers, so they had to pay them, otherwise their fields weren't getting ploughed and shit like that. So it's the same premise going around with relief teaching right now. It's like we can't find the people to people the schools. So the kids are turning up, but, you know, we haven't got the teachers to staff it. So at the same time, you know, I'm always working, so I've noticed, like, when they weren't treating us so nice, now they're, you know, kissing us and stuff like that sometimes. And sitting there and thinking, well, this is interesting, different. They're starting to realise they actually need us. So I've noticed some schools that I just will not go back to treating me like shit when I was working for them pre-pandemic. And, you know, you giggle to yourself thinking, well, fuck you shouldn't have done that. It's a little bit vindictive, but, you know, now we can pick and choose. So obviously they shouldn't have taken their workers for granted. And even now, there are still schools that will try that shit on. And you're sitting there going, darn it, I don't need to stick around for you. I can find other schools. Especially if it's like one of the ones I was preferenced to, which is fairly long distance. And with the petrol prices, I'm like, fuck you, dude, I don't have to turn up. I can find a school in my area. I was only coming back because, you know, I had preference because I like the school, or I like the teachers, or I like the kids, or, you know. So there's 2 schools I've done that to, where I've just not bothered going back in the last couple of years since the pandemic, just where the lack of respect is comparable to the amount of resources I have to expend to get there, and the treatment you get when you do get there, and you're just like, you know what, I don't need this hassle. Fuck you. I don't need it. Not many people can do that, though. Not many people can boast about that. If you're a full-time, you're stuck in one position, you're still going to suffer a level of disrespect and being taken for granted. I'm sorry, yes you are. But at the same time, you can gamify it. You can make it fun. You can torture your boss back. I don't know. Maybe you can think of something. Things get petty when you're pissed. I've noticed that. I've definitely noticed that. Relationships is the biggest thing for me, because, like, that's my ultimate thing. I'm all about relationships, which is weird because I'm a Taurus and I'm meant to be about the money, but I am about love mainly. I'm a romantic. So when I get taken for, you know, granted in a relationship, I really crack the shit. I get angry because, first of all, I was raised in an environment where it's like you don't take anything for fucking granted. You never know when you're going to get it again, so you just don't. That includes resources, affection, any kind of, you know, psychological support. And to have some person who you trusted and loved and all this kind of thing just take it for granted and use you, exploit you, it's just, it cuts you, it absolutely destroys you. In the case of my ex-husband, I felt like I died when I left him, to be honest, because I'd given so much to the relationship only to have it for granted and just, you know, watch it dissolve. You should never take the resources for granted. Never. Even now, looking back with my okay paycheck, I say okay because there's only me to worry about. If I had 2 people to worry about, like I was carrying my ex-husband, I'd be concerned. But with my only me paycheck, I can look back at some of the things I used to buy. Holy shit, I'm still going, why the fuck did I buy that? It's such a waste. And you become very appreciative of the amount of money you do have and what you're using it for. I know everybody's cracking the shits at the moment because we're getting less pay and stuff like that. But have you looked at some of the shit you used to buy and you go, fuck, why did I do that? Why did I used to pay full price for that? Oh, why did I even buy that? I don't even like that. It used to sit in the fridge and it used to just rot and I never ate it. So you become very realistic with what you're going to use as resources. It's very practical. I like that side of things, that learning from taking things for granted. Because I have taken things for granted, obviously. Things I didn't think would go away. I didn't think I'd lose my apartment to my ex-husband. I thought I would have a roof over my head. So when I became homeless, I was couch surfing. For 2 years during the separation, I finally got the apartment back in the end. But while I was couch surfing, I sat there and I used to think, I really wish I had my own fucking space. I want my shit laid out. I want my things around me. You come to appreciate things like that. So when I started renovating my dead granddad's house, who also died in the same year I got separated, as well as my nanny, funny enough, first thing I was like, all right, what can I do that will, first of all, maximize my resources, and second of all, spread what I have out without costing more. Because I was 10 grand in debt at the time, thanks to my divorce and thanks to my prick ex-husband. It was possibly the worst year, but I tell you what, it will teach you how to appreciate what you have and what you do get in the future. I love my chest freezer. It's a weird fetish. But I know what it is to not have storage space for food and goods, where I was spending so much more money on groceries and things, only to have to eat them on the day or eat them quick or use them quick or something like that. Whereas now I can sort of make stuff and freeze it, and it saves me a hell of a lot of money long term. And the food is readily there and I don't have to prep it and stuff like that. It's small things like that. I've never really got into the bit where it's like, if someone bought me like this huge, I don't know, some expensive jewelry, some shit like that. Not that I've ever had. Most expensive part of jewelry I bought myself. Something like that. If someone ever bought me an expensive gift like that, I wouldn't be able to appreciate it, I don't think, because A, I hadn't earned it myself, and B, I have no context for that. I've never really had a lot of money. And C, I'd feel weird. I really feel weird about this exorbitant thing that has no practicality, really. You're like, well, that's great. Another thing. Is it any good? I don't know. It looks pretty okay. What do I do with this? It's like, well, you wear it. And it's like, but I wear other stuff that doesn't cost this much. And I like that stuff. So, I don't know. I'm probably really cheap and stuff when it comes to that. I don't know. Well, I don't know about cheap. Because I don't, I'm not skinned. I don't not buy things. I look at things in practical terms rather than, just passing shit around, wasting stuff. I hate waste. I seriously hate waste. That's part of not taking things for granted. To have a severe detest of waste. Oh my god, that comes from me growing up in poverty, basically. Nothing was ever wasted. Even if it was going off, you were going to eat it. It's like, okay. Moldy cheese, moldy bread, which I found out later is poisonous, moldy bread. And my parents were like, you're going to eat it anyway. I'm like, okay, just cut that bit off. It's like, no, because the fungus or whatever spreads throughout the bread. And you just don't see it. All you see is like the crust of the mold. It's kind of like a wart. Some really gross ideas here. But it's like a wart, you get the head of it and then you get like a root going down. You shouldn't eat moldy bread because the brown or grey or green part you see is only the head of it. There are strands that go through the bread in the yeast that are, will make you sick. I've also eaten like semi-raw potatoes and stuff like that because my parents were just like, fuck it. So it's like, it's fine. I'm still alive. They haven't killed me yet, surprisingly. Not for wanting to try. But no, you never take anything for granted. You don't waste anything. Oh my god. If I can ever find something that is food-based, and I do have a weird thing about food, And it's a really good version of it. And it doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, I found some of the cheap things are quite good as well. But if I find like a really good version of a food, like a really good coffee or a really good cake or, you know, like a really good frozen food, and I do tend to rely on frozen foods a lot because I just like ration packs and shit. I just like the consistency. It's my autism, I know, it's fucking weird. Don't you get sick of reading the same shit again? No, I really don't. I love that shit. I love it. I love the consistency. I look forward to the consistency. When the rest of my day is chaotic and I come home and I'm eating my fucking Linda McCartney patties, sans bun or anything, just 2 patties microwaved. People looking at you like crazy. It's like, shut up. I love the taste and consistency. Leave me alone. Wow, that could go somewhere weird. Okay, anyway. Where was I going? I don't know. I'm so fluey right now. Yeah, it's the consistency. Don't take anything for granted. And I don't like waste because, you know, it just shows that you're not appreciative of whatever gifts you are given by the universe, basically. It's like not everybody gets the same chances. Everything you get is a gift. In a way, even if it's a curse, it's a blessing. So, you know, you don't take it for granted. The only thing that changes the difference between a curse and a blessing is how you use the thing you're given. My autism, for example, is deemed a disorder. I'm going, are you fucking kidding me? It's like my routine helps me get better at the gym. It helps me stick to getting my work done, my business practices. My unwillingness to be, well, not unwillingness, my inability to excessively be social means that I'm an introvert, and so I get more shit done. My life is just booming because of these so-called disabilities. I've never seen my autism as any kind of a negative thing. The only problem I have, really, is associating exact emotions. Like, I have trouble understanding what guilt feels like, or disappointment. Like, people have said, oh, wasn't that disappointing? I'm like, well, my reaction is, well, it was bad. So what does this specific feeling feel like? Like, they'll give me a spectrum of feelings, and I'll be like, well, that's a bad one, that's a good one, that's it's like, I have trouble discerning things like that. Like, I don't feel guilt, but I'm never disappointed, so it's not always that bad. You know? I know I'm not doing anything wrong because I'm following rules that are, you know, set out by morals, I suppose, common sense rules. So, you know, I'm not going around murdering things like a sociopath or anything like that. My ex-husband called me a sociopath. I don't think he knew I was autistic. It's like I have the feelings. I have trouble explaining them. I have trouble determining which ones could be stronger or weaker than others. My anger, I would akin to rage because it feels extreme on the inside, but at the same time, I have generalized anxiety disorder, and I never feel nervous or anxious. What I would assume is nervous or anxious. All I know is that at one point I just snap and have a panic attack, and that's what they told me it was. It's like, oh, you've got anxiety. It's like, I do. I said, you know, having my blood drawn in the ER. It's like, I have anxiety. You have a panic attack. What? Meanwhile, I'm assuming I'm having a heart attack. It's like, what? Yeah, all that shit. That's anxiety. It's like all that shit you were doing. And then what's happening? Like, okay. Alright, I just thought we were pretty chill. We're just cruising along. I don't know. That kind of stuff is horrible. But my skills, I consider them skills. I know the differences. I wouldn't call them a disability, I'd call them a difference in learning. Or different ability. Because it's not bad. I don't have bad stuff as far as I can see. I know, like, some people get, like a comorbidity of autism is depression. And I can understand how that can take over your life. Because you get sad. See, that's me. It's like, I say, oh, you get sad. I'm like, no, actually, it's a whole lot more complicated than just being sad. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I can't decide, because I know what sad is. I know what sad is, because I've been sad. Apparently I had depression when I first separated, so it's weird. It's a weird Like, another example is when I found my granddad dead, face down on the floor. He wasn't the nice granddad. Nice granddad died when I was 12. This was the horrible bastard granddad that everybody knew was a horrible bastard. And so we found him. It was like, oh, look, a dead body. It's like, I'm not a sociopath, I swear. I was like, oh, it's a dead body. It's like, aren't you connected to this person? Not really. He was not a person that I like. So, yeah. Meanwhile, if like, for example, I've got an obsessive thing where I'm like obsessed a little bit with the royal family. Not the new ones. I like the old ones, you know. That sounds weird. Like Philip and the Queen, you know, that's about it. Anyone else, I'm like, meh. Maybe Edward and Sophie, but that's about it. So when Philip died, I was, oh my God, I lost my shit. I was more attached to Prince Philip dying than Bob dying. And Bob's supposed to be my blood kin guy, you know? But he was just, I didn't have any attachment. I didn't have any attachment emotional to my dad or my mum. But that's again because they, you know, led me through an abusive childhood, basically. So everything I associate with them is negative, or, you know, sad or anger or all those negative feelings. I would love to associate some kind of positive feeling with these people. And even now, as I catch up with them as adults, I don't feel anything. It's really weird. I feel annoyed because they still ask me to do things. And you revert back to being a teenager. Like, God, can you come and do this for me? No, God. What do you want? But then again, they didn't make the effort to build any kind of emotional positive foundation. So it was servitude from childhood to 19 when I moved out. And even after that, it's like, oh, can you do this for me? It's like, no, you do it. You're the parent. You're supposed to be doing this. You're the adult. It was a weird arrangement. And of course you do it because, you know, if you don't do it, they'll hit you. But, you know, it was a weird arrangement. That's a whole different podcast in itself. And I'm not supposed to take them for granted. People keep saying, oh, don't take your parents for granted because when they're gone, you'll miss them. I'm like, I don't know that I will. Honestly, I don't think I will. It sounds horrible, doesn't it? It sounds evil. I promise you I'm not. It's 33 years of abuse. No, actually, it was 19 years of abuse. And then, you know, after that it was more like guilt tripping. I don't know if anyone else is facing this. But at the same time, you're like, oh, they're your parents, that's your mom. I just didn't present as a mom. I've heard some lovely stories about moms. People having lovely moms, you know, don't beat the shit out of them, abuse them and shit like that. My friend Andrew's mum was loud, but she never really beat the shit out of him. I've taken account of other people's notes about what parenting should be. Of course, that's the kind of brain I have. I'm like, okay, this was a bad experience. Rather than me just assume it was a bad experience, I'm going to compare. It's like, I mean, that's the kind of brain I have right now. I don't know. It's like, am I just overreacting because, you know, I'm seeing things in black and white? Possible. So I'll go around and I'll talk to other people. And I'll see what experiences they had. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But yeah. General consensus is you're not supposed to take your parents for granted. As far as I can tell. So, I don't know. Or your grandparents or any family relatives. Like, yeah, I'm trying to think now what I would feel if I lost my siblings. My siblings I would feel sad for. My parents, maybe not. My grandparents, they're already gone. And the only ones I liked died when I was young. My Viking granddad died when I was like 12, 15 or something. My Irish grandma, Gypsy grandma, died when I was like, must have been like 10. So I got stuck with the bastard granddads, and then basically bitter nanny. Those two were married at one point and they divorced and it was this whole thing, and then they took it out on everyone else. So anyway, that's why I'm not attached to them. So in terms of taking things for granted, you could look at things like your health. I mean, I definitely know the difference between, you know, being well and being sick, or being injured and being well. I can tell you the difference you don't want to take your sciatic nerve for granted. If anyone's doing squats or deadlifts or shit like that, you fuck up your sciatic nerve, you're gonna hate yourself for that. You do not want to take that shit for granted. Oh, it's piercingly painful. Yeah, so you shouldn't take your health for granted. I mean, at the same time, I can't understand why people do things like smoke and stuff like that. I think I've taken 2 puffs of something that's lightable in my life. One was a cigarette, one was a cigar, and that's it. I cannot understand why you would take your lungs and your health for granted. It's like you're taking the piss. I've never taken drugs, so again, health for granted. You don't just assume that you're going to be fine. It's like, because you never know. And some people never develop cancer or anything like that when it comes to smoking and stuff like that. But why risk it? It doesn't make sense. It's like, oh, I'm going to be fine. It's like, no. And I'm currently watching my dad die of God knows what, because, you know, he smokes and he doesn't wash and all this kind of business. Peter Pan syndrome. That's what my mum does. She wipes his ass, basically. But I'm watching him die, and I'm watching his body fall apart prematurely, and I'm going, well, here's a good example not to take your body for granted, or your health, and not to smoke. He might have lung cancer, we don't know. He never wants to get tested. So it's like, he didn't want to get the jab when everybody got COVID. He didn't want to do anything. I'm just going to go, what the fuck is going on, dude? I mean, yeah, even when we got the jabs, I was thoroughly impressed with getting the free jabs. Not just jabs, but free jabs the government rolled out. I'm going, fucking yes. Not only we're covered for free, but then I had a bunch of anti-vaxxers. Because I lived in a alright, I'll say it, a place called Fremantle, which is a alternative, to say the least. With hippies and anti-vaxxers and GMO-free, and I'm sitting there going, okay, like, common sense told me we eradicated polio once. I'm sure we can do it with COVID. So we'll take the jab. I don't mind getting a jab. I don't like needles, and yet I'm covered in tattoos and piercings. I'm not covered in piercings and tattoos. I'm not. I have a couple, none of which are visible unless I'm naked. But, you know, you don't take the piss and say, I'm just not going to. I mean, what were they worried about? They were worried that, you know, what, vaccines cause autism? It's like, too late, bitch, I already got that. What, are they going to make it worse? I don't know. I've only strived with my autism, so I don't know. Leaps and bounds. I don't know what they were expecting. It's like, it might make you worse. I could understand if they thought that there would be blood clots, because some people were getting blood clots. And I'm going, well, that's the dangers for any vaccine or anything you put in your body. You might get blood clots. I'm on the pill. I might get blood clots from that. I had to change pills because I was getting silent migraines, which is the weirdest fucking thing, because my ex-boyfriend at the time was getting normal migraines, and I'm going, well, I'm on this pill, and now I'm getting silent migraines and get this weird aura when my eyesight goes funny and all this kind of shit. And I'm going, that's probably not good. And it turns out that the combined pill that I was on gives you higher risk for stroke and things like that. So I'm like, oh shit. So they're like, oh, okay, so we're going to switch you on to the the non-combined pill, or whatever it is. You know, the progesterone only, that you have to take exactly on the same time every day. Sorry, I'm just going through a construction site. That's a really irritating noise. But I don't like the idea of taking my body for granted in that way, but I know if I don't take the pill, there was a chance I could get pregnant, which would fuck up my life. Essentially, especially with that guy, now that he's my ex, you know. You kind of learn these things on the way. So, yeah, I would rather have taken the pill. But the anti-vaxxers, they're just like, they had no real backing to their arguments. I was watching them, and we used to get, there was a protest bordering on riot near the city council building when I was in Fremantle. And they were it looked like a Trump rally, and I'm freaking out, because I'm like, oh god, what are we now? I just didn't want to participate in that shit. But they were going crazy. It's like, it's our body, our choice. I'm sitting there going, well, yeah, so you can choose not to. But they were worried about the mandates, that you couldn't work if you didn't get the jab. And I'm sitting there going, look, I don't want to get sick anyway, let alone, risk my income. So I'm just going to get the jab anyway. It's free. It's not hassling anyone. We did so well with polio. I'm sure we can do it again. And polio is making a comeback, by the way. Thank you. Whatever asshole has not been vaccinated. That's back in the population. Same as measles. And if you go to North America, you can get the plague. So I've been listening. I'm like, rightio. Thank you. You don't take that shit for granted. You don't take your health for granted. If someone offers you an olive branch, a free product that is going to help you survive, you fucking take it. I mean, of course, you consider the costs and the risks, but you take the fucking branch, dude. Don't be stupid. What happens in those third world countries? They just don't have the option. I know that the flu jabs cost money every year. Unless you're a pensioner or something like that, of course. In this country, I don't know where you guys are. I just couldn't believe it. I was angry at that, actually. I was angry at the angry vaxxers. But then again, I'm like, look, fine. This is social Darwinism. This is how we kill the fuckers. I don't know. And they'll do it by their own hands. So, saving money and time. But that's not how it works, apparently. It's some kind of, weak link in the chain thing where everybody needs to be immunized. If you've ever watched the COVID episodes of South Park, it explains it quite well. I shouldn't be referring that as a, educational reference. Go watch South Park. It's hilarious, but they're really, really smart with the way they do it. That's coming from someone with 5 degrees. Yeah, I don't know. I lack recognition for my degrees these days, given what I did to get them and what they're deemed as these days. It's just taking shit for granted, huh? I would never take someone's feelings for granted. That seems sacrilegious to me. That's why you don't fuck around in relationships. I am dead serious when it comes to relationships. I am dead serious, committed to that person. Like, I don't take that shit for granted. Because I know what it is to be taken for granted. To have your feelings just fucked around with. That's why I get angry when people are like, I'm a polygamist, or... I was like, sure, that's fine, you get to fuck whoever you want or whatever, but what about their feelings? What about, inevitably one person gets attached and the other person's like, I don't give a fuck, I'm just going to go and fuck some other people. Look at Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. I know I've done this podcast before, but I'm like, this is how it happens. It starts off as all fun and games, and then someone gets taken for granted and they hang around because they've got no self-esteem to leave. It's exploitative, to be honest. I can't. It seems cruel to fuck around with people's feelings like that and to be used. Because my ex-boyfriend and ex-husband now are finding out what it's like to not have someone who will go the extra mile for them. My ex-husband is a non-monogamous person, which he decided to tell me after 16 years. There was evidence to support it during the marriage and relationship, but I chose not to believe it. Now I am pretty much backtracking on that. And my ex-boyfriend, he was just an asshole. He was trying to build a trauma bond. And so you take my kindness for weakness and for granted, and he'd treat me like shit and assume that I would chase him to, fix the situation or to try and get his attention back when he was, fucking around with other girls and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, dude, you are taking me for granted. I'm not doing this yet again. I'm too old, I'm too tired. I just fuck off. Just fuck off. It's like, and he was shocked. Both of them were shocked that I wouldn't feed their ego. I'm going, you're not fucking worth it, mate. I'm paying the bills at this point. You ain't doing shit for me, so what the fuck should I help you? Why should I support you? Ugh, crazy. Of course now he's dirt poor, living in a share house or some slack. But they find out quickly, hopefully, unless of course I'm still the villain, that you shouldn't take shit for granted. Because what I did when I left my ex-boyfriends, I took absolutely everything that I had paid for with me. I didn't break any of his stuff, I didn't sell any of his stuff or anything like that. I didn't do anything to anything that was his or him. All I did was take my shit and go. It turns out my shit was a hell of a lot more than his shit. Sorry. All this stuff he had taken for granted, access, that maybe he thought that I would leave when I left for him to use because, you know, yeah, he didn't put the effort in, so I just took everything I was and everything I had and I left. And that includes clearing out the kitchen. Clearing out the kitchen, the freezer. I took everything. It sounds a bit petty, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to pay for your stupidity. I'm just not. It's like, I don't feel sorry for you. I'm not feeling anything towards wanting to support you. I'm not feeding this wolf of stupidity. So I just took everything I ever put in and took it back out and took it with me. I wonder if he appreciates what we had then. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Or isn't denial, I don't know. What else can we talk about that you shouldn't take for granted? Morals. You can never take someone with high morals for granted. You should never. Because it will be the same people with low morals that'll backstab you when you need them the most. Turn on you in a hat. You know, heartbeat. This is why I'm looking for someone with decent morals. I think if I ever get married again, I want someone with high morals. You know, some kind of honorable dude. I'm tired of, like, fuckboys. I mean, I had one fuckboy boyfriend and one fuckboy husband, and I'm just... It's like, both of which had questionables. My ex-husband didn't start off as a fuckboy. He turned into one. My ex-boyfriend started as a fuckboy. And I was trying to hope that at 40 he would have matured into a man. Yeah, I was wrong. But, yeah, we hope for it. We hope. Hope can be a killer. Yeah. Oh, what else can we not take for granted? Health, wealth. I don't know. I'm stuck in a traffic jam. Oh my god. When my car died. Oh my god. I had this car, it was a Barina. It was a gift from my parents, one of the very few gifts they ever gave me. And it was because I had finished uni the first time. My bachelor's in teaching. So I could leave, and I was 25, and it was this very cheap Holden Barina. It's gorgeous green. I loved it, because he was like a little tank, and I called him Sherman. He was awesome. But I kept that bugger until he absolutely got ripped out. It got to the point where there was electric windows, but because it'd been broken into that many times, they were fucked, because the central locking was also fucked. The physical locks had been replaced, but the insurance company wouldn't cover the electrical locks because there was no proof apparently that it had been tampered with through the physical lock, which I thought was bullshit. So I was climbing in through the boot at one point because I couldn't climb into the front of the car. It was a two-door, so I was climbing in through the boot. The engine light was going, obviously, the most cliche thing. The lights weren't working properly. I'm trying to think what else. The gearbox was fucked. And in the end, it became a haystack of problems. And I just traded it in for a new car. And the difference it made... I mean, I didn't get a fancy new car. I got with a Picanto. Just a cute little car. And I liked it because it wasn't expensive. It was easy to fix and, you know. But it's a cute car. I like it. I don't often like Kias and things like that. I wouldn't get a big fancy car anyway. It just attracts problems. Like people stealing it. Or attacking you. Or, you know. But the difference, oh my god. And it was the first thing I had ever bought, like, new, full price. And I was losing my shit for months after that. I'm still paying it off. I'm currently sitting in it. But, oh my god. After having such a train wreck of a car for so long, and then getting a new car where everything works. And not only that, there's extra shit in it. And you're like, I will never use that, but I love that it's there. Like with my apartment at the moment, it's fancier than I'm used to. And it's taken me a while to get used to it. And it's not particularly fancy. It's a shoebox. It's got like a dishwasher, which I never use. An aircon, which I never use because it costs a fortune to run. But, you know, it's got a big balcony. Just things like that I've just never had access to growing up or even when I was renting in other places. And you don't realize how fancy they make you feel just by having these things. Ooh, I got a dishwasher. And you're like, so what? Everyone's got a dishwasher now. It's like, yeah, but ooh. I got a dishwasher. I'm never going to use it. I don't like using them because I hate dishwashers. Mainly to do with the loading of them. They give me the shits. I never get it right. I hate those fucking things. I'd rather just do it by hand, to be honest. I'm so old. You know, like those nannies. It's like, the dishwasher, I don't know how it works. Fuck it, I'll just do it by hand. But I shouldn't take it for granted, but at the same time, I know I could live without it because I just don't use it now. I would rather save my money from using a dishwasher, which seems like a complete waste of money, to be honest, when it takes 2 seconds to do all of 3 dishes I own. But it's interesting to know that I have it, even though I won't use it. That's weird. Would I live without it? I probably would. I definitely could, actually. I have no interest in dishwashers. Washing machines I cannot fucking live without. I have lived in an apartment block where we had to use the laundry downstairs. It is a fucking nightmare. It is an absolute chore. What should be easy, and I took for granted when I had my apartment before I had to sell it, I had my own little laundry-ette sort of thing in my apartment. We had this little laundry area. And then to move to this big-ass apartment block where the laundry is downstairs and it's communal, it's a fucking nightmare. And you have to pay for it too, and it's, dude, I would not do that again. I've got my own machine now. But, the amount of money I spent on just getting washing done, it was $3 a load. I did 3 loads, and then like a $4 big tumble dryer. I did like the big tumble dryer. That was huge because you could get it all done in one go. I was stoked about that. Now I have to hang my clothes out on horses and things. Not actual horses, clothes. You know what I mean, wire racks. Which is a bit of a pain in the ass because it takes forever to get dry. But, you know, swings and roundabouts. I'd rather save the money towards getting an actual apartment. Now that I've got all the insides of an apartment I need, just go and get the actual shell of one now. You just don't take it for granted. I wish I could say that I took my ex-husband for granted. And for some things, I guess I did. I do miss physical, you know, connection. I miss sex as well. But I know that the price to pay for those things was not worth, you know, the act or the presence. I'd like having people to live with. I like that. I could live on my own, I could live with someone. I could, you know, at this point, I'm not taking either way for granted, to be honest. It's nice to have your own place because you can just wander around, do whatever you fucking want at your own pace, at your own time, and make a mess, and it's not a problem. It's nice to live with someone because you've got someone to come home to, and someone to talk with, and just hang out on the couch and stuff like that with. I don't think in that respect I took any kind of thing for granted because I knew it could exist both ways. So, one way or another, it will be successful. Taking work for granted. Yes, I did take work for granted for a certain extent. When I was in debt, and I'd separated from my ex-husband, I was 10 grand in debt, and I was depressed, yes, and I was just not feeling the job because it meant that I would have to, of all the shit that happened that year, 2 deaths. What was it? I mean, summarized, it was a separation, 2 deaths, homelessness, 10 grand in debt. It's my business has failed, my uni failed. It's like everything I had and known to be me or mine just went down the toilet. Like I had no grasp of it. And then I had to go and be forced into working because I was in debt and I had no choice but to work. So if I had mood swings that year, it's forgivable. So I was having to, and when I teach, I put everything out on the floor. I don't, because I'm in the job, because there's kids. I am in the job. I'm not halfway out the door. I'm not thinking about anything else. I've got to be with the kids because I have duty of care and I have to be there. Because if I'm not there, they'll run with scissors, or they'll eat glue, or something fucking stupid. And you're like, I'm going to get shit for this later, so I might as well be here now. No, I care. I do care. It gets hard some days, but I do care. So I did take work days for granted to a certain extent. I was taking some days off in that year, is what I'm getting at, because I didn't have the capacity in my brain to, you know, emotionally be there for the kids, but also at the same time be there emotionally for me. So when I found the shortages in money to be crazy. I was not having a good time money-wise. I mean, I felt better for just moping around the house and shit like that, but I didn't feel better. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't really moping. I was renovating a dead man's house. But and trying to get my businesses back online. Even when I grieve, I'm high functioning. But I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to sit at home and try and get my shit together. But I noticed the difference in pay, because I wasn't putting away towards the debt as much as I wanted to. And I was knocking down days. I was saying, no, I don't want to come in for that day because I feel like shit. I just don't want to. But I noticed I did take that for granted. I took the pay for granted. Because I know I could have cleared that a lot faster if I had just, you know. But then again, you got to look after yourself as well. If your head's not in it, then you got to take consideration, because it could just make the situation worse. I mean, there was times when I was just crying to and from the way to work because I was not in it. My heart wasn't in it that day. And you know, you go to work, you sort yourself out, and then you walk into the classroom and pretend like nothing's fucking happened, which is pretty much normal for a lot of people out there, I assume. I mean, I spent a large chunk of high school just crying in the toilet before school, so. But that was my parents. I know what caused that. That was a lot of stress, mixed with eating disorders, mixed with parents that were just assholes, mixed with, you know, cheating ex-boyfriends, and TE, exams, trying to get into uni, stress. And thank God the teachers actually just left us to it. I mean, there was a lot of shit going down that was going on with the kids in my school at my age group. That the teacher was like, look, they're all hormonal, just live into it. So it's like, thank you, please don't give a shit for the shit we're going through. And I think they understood that what we were going through with our background and stuff like that. A lot of them were very caring. I find in the high school and primary school, the teachers were more caring than my parents were. I think I took that for granted a little bit, because you're like, the teacher, gay. It's like, not that you'd say that it's gay, obviously, but there's nothing wrong with being gay. It's a double meaning there. It's nothing to do with homosexuality. And I can say that because I'm bi. I can get away with things. But you know, you're just sitting there and you're ragging on a teacher for showing concern, and at the time you're like, this is so stupid. But afterwards, as an adult, you come out and go, oh, I wish someone would actually fucking throw me a bone here and give a shit. You know, as an adult. But then again, at the same time, as adults, we sort of, you know, say, oh, toughen up. My parents' favourite saying was, hard the fuck up, or suck it up, princess. That was my mum's favourite saying. And to be honest, it sucked at the time, because, you know, you're a kid. But I've learned some skills. I can't, you know. And every now and again, when I'm feeling a bit weak or I don't think I can get on with something, I swear to God, I hear a bitch-ass voice in the back of my head going, harden the fuck up, get on with it. And you're like, yeah, fuck you. Although it does make it hard to relate to people who have emotions. Oh my God. You know, guys are purported to have, like, guys are meant to be the ones that are meant to be that I can't relate to my emotions side of business. It's like, if you had a mum like mine and you're a girl, you still do. I was like raised to be a guy. She made sure that we had both sides of the coin there, except for the emotional side of things. Emotions growing up were like a luxury. I had to learn feelings after I left home, because she wanted us as soldiers, basically, servant soldiers. No feeling, no questioning orders, just do it. And to be honest, it's a gift for me now, because I'm, 6 out of 7 days I'm a fucking mercenary. So it's great when you can just shut your shit down and get on with things. Even with something so extreme as, divorce or homelessness or something like that kicks in. it's not great if you want to build any kind of family fluffy environment. I'm lucky that teaching gave me the skills to show emotion and convey, mothering instinct, because I never had it growing up. I had a taskmaster. That was my line of command. You do what she says, otherwise you get hazed or you get shit kicked out of you. You do your job, you don't ask questions, you go look down and you keep going, It's like that was the job. And I use that now for work, getting to work and organizing the job and stuff like that. But when it comes to the kids, you have to learn the softness. Otherwise, they just won't understand why you're screaming orders at them, and they're just like, I don't understand why you're shouting at me. It's like, because you little shit, you should have known this already. It's channeling my mum. Anyway, but it's I can't take that kind of shit for granted. It was horrible at the time, but it really taught me lessons. I don't think I could ever do it to a kid. I do raise my voice in the classroom, but at the same time, I couldn't do what she did to us. I couldn't. I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end like that. And I know that it's wrong. So I know I could never hit a kid. These kinds of life skills you learn, tacit knowledge, on the job, in the practice, in the experience. It's not, you can't take that shit for granted. The amount of skills and shit I've picked up through physically teaching as opposed to the dribble they fed us when we were training. I can't take that for granted. I would take a seasoned soldier teacher over a graduate, because I'm like, you ain't even, look, your collar's still starched, mate, you ain't nothing. So you got nothing. I would take someone who's been there over someone who says they've been there. It's like, show me. You just can't take that shit for granted. What do we have? Inevitably we end up with nothing when we die. So you're born with nothing, you die with nothing. In the middle, you try and have some fun. You try and make the world a more positive place. You try and diminish the negative shit for the next generation, and that's about it. You try and make it a bit greener. I like making shit greener. I love plants and shit. I'm not going to strap myself to a tree, but I do like a bit of flowers. It is my go-to gift for myself on my birthday. That's another thing. It's like I never was able to take things like birthdays for granted and stuff, because we never celebrated. My mum was Jehovah's Witness later on, and from about the age of 12 on, and my dad was into about atheist birthdays. Just like, we don't do birthdays. That is cheap fucker. And so as a child, I didn't celebrate birthdays. I think I've had 2 in my life, besides the ones that I threw for myself. So I have 2 birthdays a year, and I don't take that shit for granted. We go all out. It's like, we are going to celebrate. And when I say we're going to celebrate, we're going to mean it. So, but like, not in a crazy way. Because I'm pretty reserved. It's like, I know I'm going to go out, buy myself some jewelry, flowers, always pink roses, get some Ferreros, take myself out to dinner, take myself out to a movie. I wish I could have shared this kind of shit with my ex-husband, but he didn't like birthdays either. Neither did my ex-boyfriend, actually. I don't know what that is. It's like, you just don't give a fuck about other people, do you? I was willing to celebrate theirs. I love that shit. If we're going to celebrate, let's fucking celebrate. But, yeah. Weird. I hope both of them live in vans at this point or something, It's like, you don't understand what you left until it's gone. This is horrible. At the same time, you don't take the piss. Don't just assume you're going to get it again. I know I've been homeless and I'm never wanting to do that again. I've been on the Centrelink line quite a fucking few times, so I can appreciate what it's like to have a job. I will not... These days I am working the full as many hours as I can. I'm not turning down work. Sick or not, I am working. Because I don't know when I'm going to get it again. I know these are gifts, and they might seem when you're, dying on your feet from COVID or whatever, that it feels like a curse, because you're like, fuck, I have to actually leave the house. I just want to pass out, but it is a blessing, don't forget that. It's still a chance for you to better your life through finance. it's still, you know, someone willing to give you a chance for more work, for more pay, to show your abilities, to show your skills. So, you know, yeah, it's never, blessings and curses are so fucking random. My ex-boyfriend had a massive thing. How do I put this lightly? He was well hung, yes. He called it a curse. I called it a blessing, because I know what it's like to have an average going. But in the end, it was a curse because he didn't know how to use it, and he didn't know how to use it because he was sexually abusive. Basically, he was too rough. There's rough sex, and then there's just, you know, cruel what he did, and he was just nasty with it. And it was, I mean, honestly, it was more, you know, bordering on rape at times. I mean, it was coercive rape at one point because I had said no, and he said no, it means yes because we've been drinking. And I said no. Yeah, that's a weird arrangement. I'm going to do a podcast on that too. Hopefully, it'll give someone insight into what they should be accepting in a relationship. But I thought it was a blessing because, you know what, it's not many guys get, you know, decent gifts from the universes, and it's how you use it. If he had used that well, he would have been able to do, you know, amazing things with that thing. Why we have this conversation, I don't know. But he decided to use it as a method of control. It was apparently, you know, a status symbol for him because that's how, you know, when we were at uni together, that's how his reputation got around. Oh my god, he's got a giant dick. It's like, yes, so what? You can't fucking use it without hurting anyone. And it's like, yeah, it is true though. It's like, it's not the size of it, it's how you use it. It absolutely is true. Because he inflicted more pain than pleasure on me most times. So yeah, don't take an average size dick for granted. I will never take an average size dick. Yeah, never again. My ex-husband, tell the truth, my ex-husband was a good lay. I will give him credit there. Yeah, and he was average. As far as I knew, I've only seen, you know, 2 dicks, so... What can I say? I'm not exactly experienced in these areas, but I know what I don't like. But no, I think I took that for granted as well. I mean, it was the one thing he had, was he was good at sex. Of course, he was, you know, like learning about sex probably from other people at the time, but, you know, I took that side of things for granted. But again, the risk to reward ratio there is just not worth it. I mean, if he came back to me tomorrow and said, I still love you and all that shit, I'd be like, fuck you, bitch. I know what it's like to live with you. I know what it's like to be with you. So I'm willing to, you know, not risk that. Anyway, he will learn that inevitably when he figures out that, you know, not many people are willing to do the same things for him as I am. Same with my ex-boyfriend. There was a few interesting traits I have that came with my autism that he seemed to find interesting. But, you know, you're not going to find them in the average person. You have to have particular, you know, mindsets or fixations. Anyway, so, what did we learn? Don't take shit for granted. You never know what you're going to get again. You should always try and stretch what you do get. Remember that the universe sends you gifts. It depends how you use it, whether it's a blessing or a curse. She will send you stuff. She will send you stuff you ask for, but you're not going to get it in the format you expect. That's a given. It is a rarity that you get exactly what you asked for. I've yet to see anyone get it. I mean, you'll get it, but it'll be like in a roundabout way. And you'll go, oh, like after you get it, you go, oh, yeah, I see the connection. Okay. Funny. Not funny, but funny. More presents, please. So you should be grateful for whatever you get. I mean, if it's not if it's not exactly what you get, then it's a lesson. Or it's some skill sets, or it's, you know, it's something you can pass on to someone else, and maybe they'll give you what you need, or something like that. There's always extra bits to whatever you get. You should never take shit for granted. You should always be thankful for what you get. Yeah. All right. So it is. Oh my god, 4:27. I'm gonna go eat some corn dino nuggies. I'm gonna declutter my sinuses because they're disgusting, and I'm so sorry if you've heard me coughing and sneezing on the way home. I'm just not with it. Take it easy. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, maybe, or maybe on the, I don't know, when's my next long trip? I don't know. But I got to get 5 podcasts out this week, otherwise I'm going to be annoyed. So I'll see you. Adios. I will see you some other time. Take it easy. Don't take anything for granted, because you never know when you're going to get it. Bye-bye.